Hi, everyone, and welcome to Studio Jake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Thank you so much for joining me on this Memorial Day live stream. I haven't done a live stream in a long time, so I thought it would be a lot of fun to kick back on this day since, I kind of had a long weekend. I thought it would be, a blast to be able to reach out to everyone and talk to you. And I just think that there's so much to talk about this week. Before I dive into it, be sure to like this live stream, leave me a comment and tell me what you think, share it out all over the place. And I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. I'm over 750, so more than halfway there. Any and every subscription helps. So thank you. I also want to remind you I have published a short story on my locals. So you can head over to studiojakemedia.locals.com and you can read it for free on my locals page. Be sure to sign up for my locals community. I post all kinds of stuff there. I post exclusives and whatnot, but I'm going to be posting more of my original works, particularly in the fiction, you know, uh, arena. And I really think that you're going to like it. I see Pixie Ray is in the chat. She's my favorite fan of all time. She says, "Hi, hi. I like your short story." Oh, thank you. She's also a really amazing Twitch streamer. So check her out over there at Twitch. And I also have some novels. Be sure to read them. I've got Cacophony. This is a paranormal thriller about a group of demons trying to take over a town and the angels sent to stop them. And of course, my fantasy series about your favorite fairy tale characters who have to come together to battle an evil mage who has taken their land. So, All Good Things is the first one, Breaking the Stars is the second one, and the third one is on its way. It should be out soon. I'm still working on it, but I'm hoping to finish it up and publish it very, very soon. Now, before I get into the topics, I want to just say happy Memorial Day to everyone, to a veteran and to families of people who have lost someone, veterans and those who sadly paid the ultimate price for serving their country. Just want to remember them. I just want to share my thank yous out. It is because of you that America is free, and I am under no delusion that is not the case. It completely is. All of you are amazing. Thank you for serving your country. All of you rock. Team USA all the way. Okay. So the reason I wanted to do this live stream is also to bring up something very important, and that is a bunch of stories that I missed. I make one video a day on the weekdays usually, and that is just because of time constraints on my part and whatnot. So I definitely want to do a little bit of catch up here. But we have some breaking news. So this is pretty cool. So the Ripperverse, which is which did the Isom comic. It is one that it is a comic company owned by Eric July. They have announced that they found some writers for Yara, which is supposed to be a spinoff series. I'm very excited about this. I think it's going to be fantastic. It's he kind of teased a spinoff in the first Isom book, which 2 is coming out. And of course, he recently got Chuck Dixon to write Alpha Core, which is going to be another Isom spinoff. This time he got Sylvia and Jen Soska. They are known for writing horror comics and directing horror films and also for their acting. I have seen one of their films. They are really good directors. Now, they do some more niche horror stuff, but they are going to be writing Yara, and I am very excited for this. I think it's going to be a fantastic one. They are both very talented ladies. They're twin sisters, or I think they're twins. They may just be sisters, but they tag team all of their projects. They do a fantastic job, and like I say, they are stellar at the work that they do. I think this is really big for Ripa, for the Rippaverse. Eric July, he stunned everyone. He said, I'm not just going to complain about the state of comics. He said, I'm going to do something about it. So he wrote and hired artists to produce ISOM #1. It broke records. It shattered expectations. It was a fantastic comic. And one of the things that I am appreciative about Eric July is he is not just, shall we say, he's not just content to just put one out every couple of years or so. He is actually going to, really buckle down, work hard, and he's going to give us more content, which is great. I think he did. In his case, he decided to, eliminate the middleman. So he didn't go through an Indiegogo campaign to crowdfund. He put the book up for pre-sale, which that's how I got it. And I was proudly part of that campaign. I think we should support indie creators. Eric July is doing it not just with comics, he also does music. I really wish he would have produced another single at some point, but I am very excited for ISOM 2. I'm excited for Alpha Core. I'm excited for Yara. It's going to be an amazing thing when we see the Rippaverse come together in this sort of fashion. So just that was sort of breaking news that I heard, just a few minutes before I went live stream. That's why I wanted to bring it up. So now I'm going to make some people mad. So Quentin Tarantino, who everyone who knows follows me, I think he's overrated. Please note, I don't think he's a terrible director. I don't think he's a hack. I just think he is overrated. He essentially makes B movies on an A budget. I don't enjoy his films, with the exception of Jackie Brown and Inglourious Bastards. Sorry if anyone is watching, but that's the name of the movie. But those are his only two good films. I haven't cared for any of the ones I've seen, and I don't care what anyone says. Kill Bill is 2 movies. Yes, I know he filmed them at the same time, and it was too long, and so he split it in 2. But the point is, he did split it into 2 films, and so his supposed 10th film that he's making is actually his 11th. I don't care what anyone says. Well, he kind of stepped in it again with some comments he had about streaming. And it always cracks me up with these highbrow directors always want to, bash how another filmmaker, chooses to release their movie. It's really none of their business. I remember Steven Spielberg was throwing hissy fits about Netflix films getting nominated at award shows, but then he turned around and started shilling for Disney Plus. Well, Quentin Tarantino, whose movies you can find on streaming services, by the way, he decided to have a little wine fest about this too. So this is from boundingintocomics.com. Quentin Tarantino comments on current streaming model for movies. What even is a motion picture anymore? Is it something that they show on Apple? Well, I get the Apple comment. Apple, they use, slave labor. So yeah, duh. But anyway. Director Tarantino recently made some pointed comments about the current streaming model as it pertains to movies and how the medium's influence has waned. Speaking with Baz Big Boy for Deadline, Tarantino revealed his upcoming film, The Movie Critic, will be his last film in his filmography. Whatever. Not only did he reveal it would be his last film, whatever, but he explained why telling, it's just me. It's just time to go out. I like the idea of going out on top. I like the idea of giving it all for 30 years and saying, okay, that's enough. Sure, I get it. That's longer than most people's average career. I just don't believe him. I think that eventually we'll see him announce a 12th film. He's got a few films, and if you know the history of Quentin Tarantino, he does have a few films that he started that he didn't finish. So I have a sinking suspicion that we'll be seeing him again. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. So he continues. And I don't like working to diminishing returns. And I mean, now is a good time because what even is a motion picture anymore? Is it just something that they show on Apple? That would be diminishing returns. He then turned his attention to how he views the medium of film at large and why he plans to produce The Movie Critic with Sony instead of Harvey Weinstein. Well, I've always thought that, and they eventually get to television. I saw a lot of them that way. I'm probably going to be doing the movie with Sony because they're the last game in town that is just absolutely, utterly committed to the theatrical experience. Okay, that's not true, but way to shill for Sony Pictures. It's not about feeding their streaming network. They are committed to theatrical experience. The judge success by at but bleep on seats, sorry, and they judge success by movies entering the zeitgeist, not making a big expensive movie and then putting it on your own streaming service. No one even knows it's there, he declares. I do declare. So anyway, uh so then he like attacks Ryan Reynolds for some reason. He says, I mean, and I'm not picking on anybody, but apparently for Netflix, Ryan Reynolds has made 50 million on this movie and 50 million on that movie and 50 million on the next movie for them. I don't know what any of those movies are. I have never seen them. Have you? I haven't ever talked to Ryan Reynolds' agent, but his agent is like, well, it costs 50 million. Well, good for him that he's making so much money, but those movies don't exist in this zeitgeist. It's almost like they don't even exist, Tarantino posits. I always like bounding into comics. They do a good that. It's Pixie Ray says, it's giving me I'm not like other girls. Yes, I would agree with that. Quentin Tarantino, this always annoys me about his fans is no matter what he does, he's in the right. So he works with Harvey Weinstein. And yes, I do believe he knew what was going on. He works with Harvey Weinstein. Oh, well, he probably didn't know. I mean, do you have any proof that he knew? I mean, they hung out all the time. He knew. And then when he leaves Harvey Weinstein, it's, oh, look at the hero. Look at the hero. He left Harvey Weinstein. Would you make up your ever-loving mind? But also his comments are it's these elitist sort of comments. It's the same attitude that destroyed filmmakers who wouldn't do the talkies or colorize their films right. They're like, no, the film is about silence, and we'll just play opera music in the background and just put subtitles up, and just the audience will just have to deal with it, and then why would we ever leave black and white movies? I'm just aghast. Same with VHS releases and DVDs. There were directors that just resisted the tide, and I get it. I am a cinephile. I love the theatrical experience. There's nothing wrong with it. But to put down someone else's work, honestly, it sounds to me like he's jealous of Ryan Reynolds, who isn't even a director, by the way. Ryan Reynolds is an actor, right? And, and I'm no fan of celebrities in general. I mean, I think Ryan Reynolds is a decent actor. I liked him in certain movies for sure. But just this whole I'm gonna thumb my nose in the air at all these people, and it's really, and I also find it even more hilarious because there's like this contradiction again with Quentin Tarantino, where people say, oh, he's such a Hollywood outsider. I know he lives in Los Angeles but he's such an outsider. Oh my gosh, he's just such an outsider. Oh, he's just such an outsider. And then when you point out, well, no, he's not an outsider. He works for major conglomerates, now Sony Pictures, right? And again, originally Harvey Weinstein. And they're like, and you say, well, if he is an outsider, maybe he should be more in the in crowd because his movies aren't that great. Of course his movies are great. What are you talking about? He's on the inside. He's won Academy Awards. So which is it? Is he on the outside of Hollywood, or is he on the inside of Hollywood winning all their awards? It's absolutely bonkers town. And, this just solidifies it for me. I can't, like I said, it's really funny because I remember one time when, I think it was when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out. That's the one with Margot Robbie, right? The movie where he really insulted the Asian community, right? Where he comes, where he's asked a question about, oh, you have Margot Robbie, but like, why don't you give her any more lines? And then he goes, I reject the premise of your statement. And everyone's like, and it's so funny because everyone's like, oh, slay king. It's like he's standing up to that identity politics and political correctness, and it's like he's an inventor of it. Come on. It's like, and also he says the N-word personally in a lot of his movies, which I think is weird. But it's this guy, he invented political correctness in movies. The way he bashes guns, or who he endorses for politics, or when he talks about politics. The guy's not based as red pill fans like to say. But anyway, Dude, get on board or get left behind if this is your last movie. I mean, what does that say about Martin Scorsese? Now, I didn't like The Irishman. I thought it was a dumb movie. It was poorly written, poorly directed, poorly acted. But outside of that, I love Martin Scorsese's works. I've never seen a Martin outside of The Irishman. I've never seen a Martin Scorsese film I didn't like. I love Goodfellas. I love The Departed. I love Taxi Driver. I think the Cape Fear remake. I think that's a fantastic film. Silence, despite its very anti-Christian themes, I still think it's a really phenomenal film, really good acting, really good directing, and so on. But so he makes a movie for Netflix, The Irishman. Originally, it was going to be called I Heard You Paint Houses. And Quentin Tarantino, he's basically saying Martin Scorsese isn't with the Hollywood zeitgeist anymore. What? That's such a stupid comment. It's like the ultimate pick me comment, I think, in my humble opinion. But all right, enough about Tarantino. Feel free to take your comments and put them in the comments section, or just throw them away, because that's just my opinion, and you're welcome to have a different one. But anyway, this is one, speaking of political correctness, these kind of stories just drive me insane. So I don't know if you read this story when you were a kid, but my parents got me when I was a little kid a book called Peter Rabbit, right? And the story is about this rabbit who's very clever. He outsmarts the humans that live in his region and stuff and whatnot. But apparently it's problematic. Peter Rabbit children's book series Under Attack is problematic. And so The Tale of Peter Rabbit was, of course, written by Beatrix Potter, and she's being accused of taking from African culture by some overpaid academic named Dr. Emily Zobel Marshall. She's at Leeds Beckett University, according to Fox News. Now, she says that she wrote an article that was published recently, and it says, her tales owe a debt to the Brer Rabbit stories told by enslaved Africans working on American plantations that needs to be acknowledged. And okay, so here's a couple of problems with that. First of all, rabbits are virtually in every culture. So whenever you take something so broad and you cast this net, it's just ridiculous. And okay, so even if Miss Potter had read the Brer Rabbit stories, remember when Disney tried to make a movie about them and the NAACP protested? So then Miss Potter creates her own rabbit, right? That can outsmart people and is very crafty and whatnot. Rabbits have always been portrayed that way. I mean, think about Watership Down, which is probably one of the most horrific stories I've ever read. But think about stuff like that. Like, so it makes no sense. Pixray, wait, what? And LOL. Yeah, exactly. It makes no sense. Rabbits are in virtually every culture. I mean, they're on the Chinese calendar. They're in the Japanese calendar. They're Latin American legends. Mexico has legends about rabbits. Native Americans have legends about rabbits. It's such a wide freaking net. And just this idea that she's focused in specifically on focused specifically on Peter Rabbit being from Brer Rabbit. It just baffles my mind. It's like, did you hurt yourself with that reach? Yeah, exactly. Rabbits are in every culture. Everyone loves bunnies and has stories of them. Exactly right. This sort of idea that because someone did something similar, that it's somehow plagiarism is absolutely ridiculous. Now, there are works of plagiarism. For instance, Count Orlok is a plagiarized version of Count Dracula, the vampire. That is without dispute. At the time when, after Bram Stoker wrote Dracula. This filmmaker made a movie based on Count Dracula, but they changed the name to Count Orlok. It's virtually the same story, and I believe Bram Stoker's estate did sue, but the reason that they did that is because Count Dracula, Germany at the time did not recognize England's copyright statuses. When it comes to these sort of urban legends and fantasies and myths, and even these cautionary tales for children that were sort of Grimm's fairy tale esque, it you just can't quantify that. It doesn't make any sense to try to. But yeah, this is one of the reasons why I say going to college right now is a scam. For instance, I was studying marketing when I was going to school, and I had to take a geology class. Why on earth would I need to take a geology class? That makes no sense. It's a scam. They just wanted me to take the class, which costs money. Then I'd have to buy the book that probably the professor contributed to, which they charge $100 when these books are maybe worth five, and they get you in all this debt. So then you have to take out a loan, and then you're stuck. That's why I gave up the college game, or one of the reasons. I wouldn't mind finishing my degree at some point, but things in academia really have to change, and it just feels like they're pulling them in. Now, I understand wanting me to take like maybe a basic scientific course just so I know the basics, water is wet and all that jazz. But still, these academics, they get bored because they're tired of teaching, or they have their PAs actually teach the class, and then they write these ridiculous papers, and they're like, oh, Briar Rabbit and Peter Rabbit are just so similar. It's absolutely bonkers town, absolutely stupid. And one of the dumbest lines in her scree, I wouldn't even call it an article. She said that according to Fox News, Marshall added that Potter's attempts to steer readers away from her sources are problematic, and while the books are viewed as part of British culture, they are in fact about resistance and survival tactics of the plantation life of the enslaved people in the Americas. Yes, that is what Briar Rabbit is about, not Peter Rabbit. He's more like Loki. He's a trickster. It wasn't about that. And it's, Briar Rabbit is, like I said, they're fantastic stories. They're wonderful stories. I think that it is amazing that a group or a community under such dire strengths were able to come up with that creatively. And, it's just so amazing. I'll close on this topic with this comment from Pixie Ray. I barely made it through high school. I really struggled. There was no way I was going to try to find a way to spend thousands on more schooling that I hate just to listen to a professor's weird rants. Exactly. It's dumb, and it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So, this just goes back to, like, we're seeing this sort of rise where there are people who are trying to circumvent other cultures to uplift theirs. So we're seeing this with Cleopatra, right? This sort of Afrocentrism that show produces. It's very ahistorical. If you look at anything based on Cleopatra, she was part Greek and part Macedonian. Very fair skin. Some sources even said she had red hair, but no. Jada Pinkett Smith, who's probably one of the worst people in Hollywood. I'm talking about meanness. Like, you can say whatever you want to about her talent as an actress and as a writer, director, or whatever. She is one of the meanest, cruelest, selfish people in Hollywood. And so, what does she do? She upends an entire civilization's history. She's evil, LOL. Yeah, 100%. You see this with this happening with Netflix's Cleopatra. They're doing a really cool series, in my opinion, called African Queens, where they go through and they take a look at different queens in what they call sub-Saharan Africa. And their first entry, took a real African queen and told her story and whatnot. That's great. Cleopatra is not African; she's Egyptian. At the most, you could make the case that she's Middle Eastern, but by all accounts, all of her history, she has always been represented as Greek or Macedonian. But for one thing, the Egyptians at the time, they were dealing with the rise of the Roman Empire. I find it interesting. I don't, maybe some of you remember this. There was a really trashy TV show that was real big for a while called Rome. And it was just basically, they were trying to turn the entire Roman Empire into the Playboy Mansion. That's basically what that series was. But I think it's funny that that series, they had Cleopatra as a character in one season. And I actually think it's kind of funny that that show, which was just, basically adult content, got Cleopatra more accurate than Netflix did. And it's just from what I've read, it's just filled with uh, shoddy uh, academic work. They don't even really talk to real historians. They talk to college students, basically. Another reason not to go to college. And I just think that that is fascinating that they can't focus in on history and tell it the way it is. We have to always find some way to change it. That's one reason, and I know I'm about to say something controversial. That's one reason why I don't like Lawrence of Arabia. The history in that movie is abysmal. It's basically like fan fiction, and also it's really slow. But anyway, if you guys want me to someday do a video on why I don't like Lawrence of Arabia, I'll break down all the points outside of it being ahistoric. Let me know in the comments. But all right, so on to the next story. So I think this is kind of funny. So there's been a lot of controversy about The Little Mermaid and the live action remake. So of course they race swap. Disney has to do this to earn political points, with people who don't even go see their movies. And one of the things people were wondering about this, because Disney is heavily relying on the Chinese box office right now. I'm talking about heavily relying on the Chinese box office. And people were wondering because in China, they are Disney was making some decisions that sort of cater to the Chinese mindset. So like when they did their Disney sequels, they shrunk Finn on the poster. And what's interesting, the Little Mermaid poster, I wish I had a photo of it so you could see this, but what's interesting about the Chinese poster for the live action Little Mermaid is they made her blue. So the actress Holly Bailey is her name. She's African American. She's a black actress. I've never seen her ever in a role, so I can't speak to her talent. And I haven't seen The Little Mermaid yet, so I'm not going to review it. All I'm saying is I think it's funny is Disney was shoving in our faces that, oh, we've race swapped Ariel and you're all a bunch of istophobes if you don't like it. But then when it comes to China, they recolor the poster, no pun intended, to make her look blue. Well, China noticed this, and so their propaganda news outlet had some things to say about it. So this is according to bleedingfool.com, not that other useless website. Bleeding Fool says, the Chinese state-run Global Times newspaper slammed Disney on Thursday for its lazy and irresponsible live-action remakes. Whenever you see air quotes, that's from the article. Claiming that casting black actress pop singer Holly Bailey as the title character in The Little Mermaid was motivated by political correctness and alienated Chinese viewers. China has a long history of racism in both public policy and entertainment under the Communist Party. That's right, communists are the worst racists. The use of offensive blackface paint is not uncommon on state television, as evidenced by its appearance in 2 recent Lunar New Year's variety shows. The Little Mermaid remake will be released in both China and the United States on Friday, and it goes over some of their predictions, and then it says current pre-sales plus pre-screenings is about $58,193 in the Chinese mainland, and the screen rate for its debut has also dropped from 30% to 13%, the state newspaper detailed. Many Chinese citizens said that, like Snow White, the image of the mermaid princess in Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale has long been deeply rooted in their hearts, and it takes a leap in imagination to accept the new cast. I don't have problems with with it. I don't have problems with the Grimm fairy tales, the Hans Andersen stuff either. It's really sad because obviously the Chinese newspaper, it's communist propaganda, right? But it's sad that they are pointing out the obvious. A propaganda newspaper that covers for all kinds of atrocities is doing this. I think it's I just think it's shocking, and and how they are doing. She's the good sister. It's really hypocritical. Yes, 100%. And oh, by the way, welcome, Gotha Chick 4. Welcome to the live stream. Thank you for popping in. Really appreciate seeing you here. And it's been a crazy time. It goes back to what we were just talking about. What is, to me, heart to you as well. One of the weird things about this whole situation, it's just what I was talking about earlier, is the Black community, African Americans, they have a long-standing, amazing form of fairy tale and whatnot. So if I was a producer at Disney, I would want to mine that field. That would be fantastic. You could get a Black director, Black writers, a Black cast, whatever you think, and bring them all together and tell this story, because I think that would be fantastic. I would love to see these tales, but it's kind of like the same thing they do with a Mexican, Latin American culture, right? They only want to talk about the Day of the Dead. And there's so many amazing stories to tell from Mexico. I know this because I'm married to a Mexican. And her father, who is from Oaxaca, Mexico, may he rest in peace. He would always tell me all kinds of stories and legends, that they have, because he and I would talk about, because I'm a writer, so I would talk about how different things, and so he would tell me some of their folk tales as well, and I think that that's fantastic. It's not just about the Day of the Dead. There's tons of other stories that you could tell. And yes, exactly. And for me, it shows a lack of imagination and laziness on the part of these film studios, that they want to subvert other fairy tales and folklore just to get high fives on social media. It's dumb. It's stupid. It makes no sense. And like I said, very lazy. And I would love to see us explore other facets of fantasy and pop culture, or I should say old culture, not pop culture. I would love to see us do that from all of our things. America is incredibly diverse, and we have so many amazing people with backgrounds and heritage and fairy tales and folklore, and we could explore all of those. But instead, they get lazy. And Pixare says so many fantasy mystical stories that could be told. Dia de los Muertos is just one thing. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But yes, exactly. Yeah, that what is that? I believe I've seen 3 movies. Even what's that Pixar movie that Coco. Amazing film, but again, Dia de los Muertos, and it doesn't. The Book of Life, another one based on that holiday, and there's so many other stories, Latin American legends and folklores that Disney could explore, but they just don't because they've gotten lazy. If they just imagine if they did it with the same gusto that they did for those animated films like The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, that was a really famous an American legend that an American writer wrote, and they did it with all the gusto, all of that Disney magic. But today they can't do it. They can't do it because they have gotten lazy. So I just don't know. It drives me crazy. So I know this is sort of a bad transition point because there's really no hope, and I don't see things changing for Hollywood with this. It's one thing too, because it's like the Japanese even get this right. So right now Mappa is doing season 2 of the Vinland Saga, and it's not historically accurate. Obviously, they do take a lot of liberties with the stories because it's based on a real legend, real historical characters are involved. But so they even they didn't feel like they had to put Japanese characters in the Vinland Saga. The creator of it, he kept it culturally correct, and in my opinion portrays that lifestyle, that Viking savage lifestyle, which apparently I'm a descendant of according to a recent DNA test. And I think that is fantastic. But in our own culture, American culture, we have to cater to social media weirdos who saw a TikTok from someone who saw a TikTok from someone who saw a TikTok from someone who read something off Reddit. And so they think it's true, and it's not. And all it does is hurt. Yeah. And I'll close on this topic with this. They're creatively bankrupt, so they swap everything. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So on to another creatively bankrupt. This would be the Kardashians. And everyone who knows me knows what's coming. I do not like the Kardashians. I think that they are fake celebrities who are just famous for being famous. They are smug, they are arrogant, and we're just supposed to, uh, you know, pretend like they're somehow above us because they have the last name the Kardashian for whatever reason. It's so dumb. And this story I found so incredibly sad, and it just boggles my mind that they would put this out there so publicly for people to see. So it says Khloe Kardashian admits she feels less connected to her baby because he was born via surrogate. That's not exactly a good advertisement for surrogacy, obviously, but this is according to evmagazine.com, written by Nicole Dominique. In a heartbreaking episode of Hulu's The Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian says she feels guilty over her lack of connection to her son Tatum and wishes that others would have been more honest with her about the realities of surrogacy. The 38-year-old sat with Kim Kardashian and Scott Disick to discuss the transactional experience she calls a mind bleep. Khloe and her ex Tristan Thompson welcomed their baby Tatum in July 2022, but she revealed that it didn't register she was having a kid until she got to the hospital. Yeah, because you weren't the one having the kid, Khloe. Kim, who carried her first 2 kids, North and Saint, explains that it's different when the baby is in your belly. I do think there is a difference when the baby is in your belly. The baby actually fills your real heart. There is no one else on this planet who will fill you from the inside like that. And oh my gosh. So this is just bizarre to me. Why would you say something so personal and so private about your own son so publicly? Listen, I feel for Khloe Kardashian. I know that surrogacy is very difficult. Adoption is very difficult. And it's something, this will haunt him. Yeah, exactly. Pixie Ray said it exactly right. It's sad when he gets older and read what was said about him. That is just shocking to me. Normally, I can make fun of them because they do something so bizarre, like when Kim Kardashian left poor North outside of the Met Gala with a bunch of strangers. I can make fun of her for being a doofus in that moment. But this is something that goes beyond just leaving her on the outside. This is evil. Yes, I said it. It is evil to discuss this in public just to get ratings on a vapid TV show that no one cares about. And yes, I'm getting on a high horse and I don't care what anyone says. Tatum will grow up one day and he will find this. The internet is forever. Even if the Kardashians, hopefully it'll be canceled one day. He'll be able to go on whatever replaces Instagram in the near future when he's old enough, and he's going to see exactly what his mom said about him, that she doesn't feel connected to him just because she got him from a surrogate. And like I said, maybe this puts surrogacy in another light that we should all be talking about. That's another topic for another day, but it's just insane to me that she would say something like this. It boggles my mind. And I'm sorry, I know I'm talking in circles. It just upsets me so much. The bond between a mother and son, we just had Mother's Day. It should be special. Now, I'm not talking about mama's boys, where they're 28 and there's, their mom's still pouring them chocolate milk and all that, but it should be sacred. It should be something connected. And it's absolutely insane that she would say something like this about her own child. I I debated whether or not to talk about this because there's really no comedy angle to this. Sometimes I like I was doing with Quentin Tarantino, I like to joke about it, but I can't really joke about this. It just goes to show you how this desire for fame, that it gets so caught up in your life that it affects you so freaking much that just to get that click, just to get that high of seeing all those clicks, those hearts and those comments. Oh, slay queen! Oh, slay queen! Arf, 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 arf! That's what they're doing this for, and I just can't. I just can't seriously sit here and find any other way. Pixary says the only thought was people feeling sorry for her sad feelings, not even thinking about the child, self-centered. Exactly right. This was just nothing but a brazen act of self-centeredness. And, hopefully she'll realize this and she'll come to her senses. I think Kim is too far gone. I think the mom, whatever the mom's name is, she's the most forgettable of the group. I think that she's too far gone, but hopefully Chloe and Kylie, or whatever the other one's name, hopefully they will come to their senses and wake up before it's too late. I'm not holding out hope. They're all vapid and drama queens, and everything has to be about them and their wealth. But oh, Pixie Ray, she gives us a black pill here. I think they're all too far gone, crying emoji, but I just really don't like them. Yeah, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. So anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about this topic. I'm going to move on to something else. This is something that I actually think is good. So if you get the chance, go see Suzume. It is an anime film by Makoto Shinkai, who also did Weathering with You and Your Name, two amazing films. And he did Suzume. I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was fantastic. I think I'm going to say Your Name is probably my favorite of his films, just being honest. It's very emotional. It's got a little bit of crude humor in it. That's kind of, that you don't see in a lot of American films anymore, but, never crosses that line. And just a really good, solid sort of, I'll say supernatural romantic film. And amazing artwork in it. He's such a genius when it comes to character designs and with writing. And with Suzume, it blew up at the box office, both here in the States and in Japan. I don't know how it did in Europe, but maybe this article will go more into depth in that. So this is from the Anime News Network. Makoto Shinkai's Suzume film ended its run in Japanese theaters on Saturday and recorded an estimated final box office revenue of 14.79 billion yen, which is about 105 US dollars, and 11.15 million tickets sold. Now, we're used to movies making, close to $500,000, in some cases close to $1 billion. So that number doesn't seem like a lot, but I promise you, for the Japanese box office, that's a big deal. The film has surpassed the 14.23 billion yen lifetime Japanese box office earnings of Shinkai's previous film, Weathering with You, also an amazing film. The film has thus become the 14th highest earning film of all time in Japan, as well as the 8th highest earning anime film of all time in Japan. The film jumped back onto the top 10 chart for its 29th and final week last weekend to rank at number 8. That's incredible. You don't see that in America, where a film will be number 1. It might be number 1 for like 2 weeks, but when it starts dropping, it drops like a rock. But in Japan, apparently it came back. The film opened in Japan at number 1 on November 11th. It opened in North America on April 14th. That's actually when me and my super cute wife went to see it. Crunchyroll is screening the film in Japanese with English subtitles and with an English dub. The film has earned over $5 million in its opening weekend in the U.S. and has ranked over 10 million as of May 5th. The film was ranked number 1 on its opening day on many countries' box office charts and is currently the highest selling Japanese anime in China of all time, and has sold more tickets in South Korea than any other Japanese film. That is incredible. Oh my gosh. I'm happy for that. I really am. Suzume is a fantastic fantastic film. Gothic Chick 4. Are you hearting the movie? Did you see Suzume? I'm curious. But anyway, the film was very beautiful, beautifully told, beautifully drawn. See, this is a problem that I have when people are like, animation is just for children. No, back off, man, baby. Anime in particular, and just in Western animation, I love that story, with when it's told in animation. For instance, The Lion King. What's the key difference between the live action remake and the animated one? They can emote. I'm using that example because I've seen both of them. I liked the Ghibli references in Suzume, I'm assuming. Yes, I did as well. Man, baby, yes. And they can emote better. They can make better expressions. I mean, think about a Studio Ghibli movie. Take My Neighbor Totoro, for example. So that movie, if you haven't seen it, it's about these 2 girls. They move kind of out in the country with their dad because their mom is ill, and she has to get treatment at a hospital that's out more in the country as opposed to being in the big city. So it turns out this house borders on a forest that is the home of this forest spirit called Totoro. Now, apparently in Japanese culture, Totoro is kind of comparable to Winnie the Pooh. So Gothic Chick 4 says, I watched Your Name with 3 hearts. Yes, Your Name is an amazing film. Like I said, I think that's my favorite of his works. So Totoro doesn't speak in the movie in My Neighbor Totoro. He does, but he emotes very well. The animators at Ghibli did a fantastic job of drawing him. And it's the same in Suzume, Your Name, Weathering with You, which all kind of have supernatural aspects. For instance, Suzume, there's kind of this creepy, well, he's not really creepy, I guess mischievous. Well, no, he did turn someone into a chair. That's the premise of the movie. But this cat, and if they had drawn this cat like a real cat, it wouldn't have landed as well. The expressions wouldn't have been the same, and we would have gotten just a blank face. Cats really only emote when they're scared or surprised. Like when they're happy, they just kind of meow at you. When they're mad, they just kind of meow at you. And so seeing it in animation form, it truly is amazing. I think it's a perfectly legitimate form of entertainment, of filmmaking, of storytelling. And I hope to actually make an animated film one day. I'm not an animator, but I would be happy to work behind the scenes in some capacity, maybe as a voice director or direct the overall film, whatever the case may be. And then I can annoy the animators while I watch them do their craft. I always find animation work to be fascinating. And so it's not just for kids. Go see Suzume. Go see a Ghibli movie. Watch an old Disney animated feature film. Watch The Black Cauldron. It's very underrated and whatnot. So, all right, everyone, that about wraps it up. Before I go, I want to remind you, go to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. Read my short story Bored. Just so you know, it's a horror film. Or excuse me, a horror film. It's a horror short story. Give it a read. Tell me what you think. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Real Jacob Airy. You can follow me on Instagram at Real Jacob Airy. Facebook is Studio Jake, and excuse me, Studio Jake Media. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video, leave a comment, share it out, and of course, subscribe. Like I said, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. Every single click of that subscribe button helps me. Thank you very much. Leave me a comment. Tell me if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. I don't care. Either way, actually, but I appreciate your comments. I love interacting with all of you in the comment section. Also, head over to my website, studiojakemedia.com, for more news, reviews, and my takes on all your favorite kinds of film. I want to once again thank everyone who participated. Thank you, Gothic Chick 4, for being in the chat. Thank you, Pixie Ray. You were here from the very beginning, Pixie Ray. Also head over to Pixie Ray's Twitch stream, which is prism.pixie. She also streams video games there. Thank you all so very much, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.